This is Concept E classes, and today we'll deal with Chapter 6 of Class 8 Social Science Geography, Human Resources. So in this chapter, first we'll see what are human resources, the distribution of human resources, what do you mean by a density of a population, and what all are the factors affecting the distribution of population. We'll also study about population change and the patterns of population change. And finally, about population composition. So first let's see an introduction of human resources. Now people are the nation's greatest resource. It is a people with their demands and ability that turn the nature's bounty into resources. We know we have various things in nature, and only when people use their ability, their skill and knowledge along with technology, they make more and more resources. For example, from wood, how we make furniture, from rubber we make tires. So healthy, educated and motivated people, they develop resources as per their requirements. And that is why we say that the human resource is the ultimate resource. Now human resources, like other resources, are not equally distributed over the world. They differ in their education levels, their age and their gender as well. And their numbers and characteristics also keep on changing. So let's study more about the distribution of this human resources. So distribution of population. Now the distribution of human resources in the world is extremely uneven. And the pattern in which the people are spread across the earth's surface is known as the pattern of population distribution. The pattern in which the people are spread across the earth's surface is known as the pattern of population distribution. More than 90% of the world's population live in about 30% of the land surface. And the rest of the 70% of the land surface is either uninhabitable or sparsely populated. We have already discussed about the land resource in chapter 2, where we studied about the habitable and inhabitable land surface. If you have any doubt, please refer that chapter. Now some areas are very crowded and some are sparsely populated. So the crowded areas are the South and the Southeast Asia, and the sparsely or less populated areas are the high latitude areas, the tropical deserts, the high mountains and the equatorial forest. Now if you notice that from these two, most of the people live in the north equator rather than the south of the equator. Now almost 3/4 of the world people live in Asia and Africa. So this is the world population by the continent. Out of every 100 people in the world, most of the people live in Asia and Africa. See, the violet shows Africa. Then orange shows the people living in Europe. So if you see this, we can see that almost 3/4 of the world's people live in Asia and Africa. And 60% of the world people stay in just 10 countries. And all of them have more than 100 million people. We know that the most populated country is China, followed by India, then United States, Indonesia, Brazil, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nigeria, Russia, Japan, etc. and even other small countries. So the majority of the people, that is 60% of the world people, they stay in just these 10 countries. The next topic is density of population. What do you mean by density of population? The number of people living in unit area of the earth's surface is termed as population density. The number of people living in a unit area of the earth's surface is termed as population density, and it is normally expressed as per square kilometer. Now the average density of population in the whole world is 51 persons per square kilometer. South Central Asia has the highest density of population, followed by East and Southeast Asia. See, here we can see the population density. The dark red shows high population density. So the South Central Asia, it has the highest density of population, followed by East and Southeast Asia. The average density of population in India is 382 persons per square kilometer. So the density of a population is the number of people living in unit area of the Earth's surface. So let's now discuss about the factors affecting a distribution of population. Now we know that people prefer to live in a particular area based on certain requirements. So we can categorize these requirements into geographical factors and socio-economic and cultural factors. So the geographical factors are topography, climate, soil, water and minerals. We'll also discuss about the social factors, cultural factors and economic factors briefly. So first let's discuss about the geographical factors that affect the distribution of population. The main factors are topography, climate, soil, water and minerals. So first let's see how topography affects the distribution of population. Now what do you mean by topography? It refers to the physical features of an area like terrain, mountains, hills, rivers, lakes, plains, etc. The people, they prefer to live on plains rather than mountains and plateaus, as these plains are suitable for farming, manufacturing and service activities like trades and all. The Ganga plains are the most densely populated areas of the world, and mountains like Andes, Alps and Himalayas, they are less populated areas. So now let's see how climate affects the distribution of population. Now people, they usually avoid extreme climates that are very hot or very cold. For example, the Sahara Desert, it is very hot there, whereas the polar regions of Russia, Canada and Antarctica, there is extreme cold there. So people usually avoid to live in such areas. Now let's see how soil affects the distribution of population. Now people, they prefer to live in areas that have fertile lands, as the fertile soils provide suitable land for agriculture. Therefore, such regions will be densely populated. Some of the examples of such fertile plains are the Ganga and Brahmaputra in India, the Huanghe Jiang in China and the Nile in Egypt. So these all are the fertile plains which are highly populated. Now let's see the next geographical factor, which is water. The people prefer to live in areas where fresh water is available. The river valleys of the world are the most densely populated area, whereas deserts, they have very less population, as fresh water is not easily available. Now let's see how minerals affect the population distribution. Now areas where there are mineral deposits are mostly populated. That is mainly because in such areas there would be more and more industries, thereby creating more employment opportunities for people. Some of the examples of such populated areas are the diamond mines of South Africa and the oil fields in Middle East. And because of such opportunities, employment opportunities, the people, they settle down in such areas. Now let's discuss about the social, cultural and economic factors that affects the distribution of population. So first let's see the social factors. Now areas of better housing, education and health facilities are more densely populated. For example, Pune. In such a city, there are good housing locations, there are good schools and colleges and even good hospitals. So people prefer to live in such areas. Now let's discuss about the cultural factors that affects the distribution of population. Now places with religion or cultural significance attract a lot of people, like the tourists, they come there. So there are other job opportunities like in hotels and all. So people prefer to stay in such areas. Some of the example is Varanasi, Jerusalem and Vatican City. These all religious places, they attract more and more people. Now the economic factors, they include industrial areas which provide many employment opportunities. So people, they prefer to stay in such areas where there are good employment opportunities. For example, the Osaka in Japan and the Mumbai in India, they are the most densely populated areas in the world. Now let's see what is population change. The population change refers to the change in the number of people during a specific time. The world population, it has not been stable. If you see this graph, you can understand. At 500 BC, we had only 100 billion people. In the year 1900, we had about 1,625 million people. In 1999, we had about 6 billion people. So here we can understand that there is a change in the number of people and the population has increased manifold. And why is that? It is mainly due to the changes in the number of births and in the number of deaths. So let's see how the changes in number of births and deaths affected the population in our human history. So until the 1800s, the world population grew steadily but very slowly. Why was that? Because a large number of babies were born at that time, but they died early too. Why? Because there were no proper health facilities at that time. Sufficient food was not available. The farmers also were not able to produce enough to meet the food requirements for all the people. As a result, the total increase in population was very low. In 1804, the world population reached 1 billion. And after 155 years in 1959, the world population reached 3 billion. Now, if you see this, we can see that there is a sudden increase. So this process was termed as population explosion. And in 1999, 40 years later, the population doubled to 6 billion. Now, what was the reason of this sudden growth? It was mainly because at that time, better food supplies were available, medicinal facilities were available, hence death reduced, while the number of births still remained fairly high. As a result, the population doubled. So we just now saw how births and deaths are the natural causes of population change. Now, how can we measure this birth and death? That is through birth rate and death rate. Births are usually measured using birth rate, that is the number of living births per 1,000 people, and deaths are usually measured using death rate, that is the number of death per 1,000 people. Now, the difference between the birth rate and the death rate of a country is called as the natural growth rate. What is the natural growth rate? It is the difference between the birth rate and the death rate. The population increase in the world is mainly due to the rapid increase in the natural growth rate. That is, if the natural growth rate is high, there is a population increase. Here we can understand it more. When the birth rate is higher than the death rate, there is a population increase. Here, when the birth rate and the death rate are same, the population also stays the same. When the death rate is more than the birth rate, then the population decreases. So the population increase in the world is mainly due to the increase in the natural growth rate. That is, when the birth rate is greater than the death rate, there is a population increase. So just like deaths and births, migration is also another way by which the population size changes. Now, what do you mean by migration? It is a movement of people within a country or between countries. Now, the people who leave the country are termed as emigrants, and the people who arrive in the country is termed as immigrants. For example, here we can see that when a person leaves that country, we say that the person emigrated from that country, and when they reach to another country, we say that they immigrated to United States. Or in simple words, we can say that emigrants are the people who leave the country and immigrants are the people who arrive in the country. The countries like USA and Australia, they have gained in numbers, that is, they have increased population due to immigration or immigration. And Sudan is a country that has a loss in population due to out-migration or emigration. That is, the people are leaving from that country, hence they have less population. Now, why do people migrate? They migrate in search of better employment opportunities, education and health facilities. So we already studied about population change and what all causes the population change. It was the number of births, number of deaths as well as migration. Now let's understand the pattern of population change. Now the rate of population growth, it varies across the world. Although this population growth rate is rising rapidly, not all countries are experiencing this growth. If you see this figure here, we can understand. The dark blue color shows the areas where there is very high growth rate, whereas the light brown shows the areas which have high population growth rate, and or the lighter color shows the area which has medium growth rate, and white colors are those areas which have no growth rate at all. So some countries like Kenya, they have high population growth rates. Why is that? It was mainly due to the high birth rates and death rates, and with the improving health care, the death rates have reduced, but the birth rates still remain high. Thus, this leads to a high population growth rate. Other countries like United Kingdoms, the population growth rate is very slow. And why is that? It is because of both the low death and low birth rates. Now, last topic of this chapter is population composition. Now, what do you mean by population composition? It means the structure of a population. So, before entering into that, let's consider two highly densely populated areas, which is Bangladesh and Japan. Now, even though both countries are crowded, the economic development is very different. See, in this image, we can see how Japan is far more developed than Bangladesh. So, the level of economic development does not depend upon how crowded or densely populated that area is. It depends upon the ability of the people. So let's discuss more about this in the following slides. So to understand the role of people as a resource, we need to know more about their qualities. Now people, they vary in their age, their gender, their literacy level, their health condition, occupation and income level. It is essential therefore to understand these characteristics of people. So this population composition, it is the description of the characteristics of a group of people in terms of their age, their gender, their literacy level, their health condition, etc. Or in other words, we can say that population composition, it refers to the structure of the population. So with this help of the composition of population, we get to know more about how many males and females are there in a population, which age group they belong to, how educated they are, what types of occupations they are employed, what is their income level, and how are their health conditions. So the best way to understand about this population composition is by the population pyramid, which is also called as an age-sex pyramid. Okay, so this population pyramid, it shows the total population divided into various age groups. For example, 5 to 9 years, 10 to 14 years, 65 to 69 years, and the percentage of total population subdivided into males and females. So, an interesting way to study about the population composition of a country is by looking at this age-sex pyramid. Now, the shape of the population pyramid tells the story of the people living in that particular country. For example, the number of children below 15 years are shown at the bottom. This shows the number of births at that time. Similarly, the size on the top, it shows the number of aged people which are above 65 years, and this shows the number of deaths. Similarly, the population pyramid also tells us how many dependents are there on a country. Now, there are two groups of dependents. The young dependents are less than 15 years and the elderly dependents are greater than 65 years. And those of the working age are economically active. So with the help of this population pyramid, we can know how the people live in that particular country. So let's now understand the population composition of 3 countries through this population pyramid. So first let's see the population pyramid of Kenya. Now the population pyramid of any country in which both the birth and death rates are high have a broad base and it rapidly narrows at the top. So this situation is seen in Kenya. Now why is this happening? It is because although many children are born, many of them die at their infancy itself due to many health conditions or lack of health facilities, and relatively a few become adult and hence a very few old people. So if you observe such a population pyramid, we can understand that both the birth rate and death rate are high. Now let's understand the population pyramid of India. Now sometimes there are countries where the death rates, especially among the young, are decreasing. The pyramid would be broad in the younger age groups. So this can be seen in the pyramid of India as well. So such population, it contains relatively large number of young people as many infants survive to adulthood. This also means that there is a strong and expanding labor force as well. Now let's understand the population pyramid of Japan. In countries like Japan, the low birth rates make the pyramid narrow at the base, and the decreased death rate allow the number of people to reach the old age. That is, as the death rate of the country has decreased, a large number of people were able to reach the old age. So we can conclude by saying that skilled, spirited and hopeful young people with a positive outlook are the future of any nation, and we in India are very fortunate to have such a resource, and hence we should provide good education, skills and opportunities to these young people so that they will be more able and productive. So that's all for Chapter 6 Geography Human Resources. Tune in soon for the next section. Thank you so much. May God bless you all. Take care and bye-bye.